Hey gang, what's up? We're pretty excited today. They're back in session. This is the first piece. Mike Barrett and Michael Cooper are drilling the ethics commissioner, von Finckenstein, who is like a James Bond villain. Oh, he's corrupt too, covering up for Carney and Trudeau. Let's take a look, get right into it.
As I said at the onset, it's been a while, and so lots to get caught up on. We're going to start our round of questioning with 6 minutes. I'm going to go to Mr. Barrett. You have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, that's something
Merci,
everyone
bon
can
matin,
enjoy.
commissaire.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner.
Have you back at committee. It's been a year. A lot's gone on since then. I'll get right to it. Canadians can see which companies a designated public office holder held shares or options in before entering office, but not the value of those holdings. Does that level of disclosure give the public enough information to assess a potential conflict, or would value ranges better serve the public interest?
Well, the crafters of the Act already decided it's important for the public to know what a person owns, and it leaves it up to the Commissioner to make a decision as whether what to do with them. Most of the things that they own which are of consequence are either disposed or placed in a blind trust. It's only items that are below a minimum threshold that people can hold. And it seems to me that was a decision the legislature took to say, you want to respect the privacy of people, you want to encourage people to come. They don't have to disclose everything they own and how much. They have to deal with it in such a way that there's no conflict of interest. And that's the choice the legislatures took.
Would you suggest that a parliamentary that a review of the Act by Parliament should consider that question? You having said that this was a decision taken by Parliament at its last review to leave it alone and at its inception, there's no value ranges, and so they go into the blind trust. But if it's a high performing stock, well, the trustee's not going to liquidate that. They're going to leave it in there, and the public office holder knows what they put in.
Yeah, it's as you know, first of all, it's in a blind trust. The public officer has absolutely no idea what the trustee will do with it, and he cannot give him direction. So the trustees, most of them, will just hold it. They can trade, that's a privilege, obviously, and they will do, but they also have to account later on to the person who placed the things in trust. So the best course is to basically just a passive holder, and that's what most of trustees do. But they are not restricted to it. Then secondly, if the public office holders obviously knows what he placed in the trust, etc., and if he makes decisions that could be germane to what's in the trust, etc., in those cases we establish what's called a screen, and in effect we make sure that the decision maker does not make decisions regarding its very valuable asset that he has in the portfolio, which will be directly affected by his decision, and it is an asset that is specific. It's not part of general legislation or covered by legislation or covered by a class.
So would mandatory divestment and independent reinvestment remove the perception and simplify compliance? The issue, if I may, the issue with the blind trust is that you take, for example, a prime minister who would have the clerk of the Privy Council, which is a political appointment, and their chief of staff, a political appointment, are the overseers of it, and there's no public indication when that screen has been used. And so there wouldn't be a need for a screen if the funds were simply divested and then reinvested by an expert, financial manager.
You're right, but it's a pretty simplistic solution, because you imagine you're suggesting that somebody who enters into public service sell all his assets, can increase a great tax liability, obviously, for that year, etc., and only then leave it up to a trustee to deal what's best, what he thinks, the trustee thinks is best with the assets. It's something that can be done. I certainly wouldn't recommend it because I think it would be very much discourage people from entering into public services. It would suggest that,
If I may, Commissioner.
Great tax liability and B, also very much interference in his personal...
If I may, sir, the objective here isn't about the encouragement of folks to run for office or to avoid tax liability, so much as it is to ensure that Canadians have confidence that the decisions taken by these public office holders are those that are in the best interest of their public, and there can be no appearance of a conflict or no perception that that they're taking decisions that are going to enrich themselves, and that's the root of my previous question. These conflict screens can cover dozens or hundreds of companies, but does your office have any ability to independently verify that the screen is triggered when required, or is it simply up to the political appointees of the designated public office holder to inform you?
Let me first of all
response,
correct
sir.
you with your assumption. The Act has specifically sets out 5 purposes. The last 2 are encourage experienced and competent persons to seek and accept public office, facilitate the interchange between private and public sector, minimize the conflicts between private interests and public duties, and provide resolution of those conflicts. So part of my job is exactly that, making sure that the best people can get into the public service and out with the least conflict of interest.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
So we're going to move on to the second round. Mr. Cooper, you have 5 minutes.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I want to ask you some questions about the Prime Minister's so-called ethics screen. First of all, the ethics screen is being administered by the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff and the Clerk of the Privy Council, correct?
Yes.
So we have the Chief of Staff, who is appointed by and works directly for the Prime Minister, and the Clerk of the Privy Council, who serves at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. These 2 individuals are hardly independent of the Prime Minister. So in the face of that, what assurance do Canadians have that the screen is being implemented and enforced properly?
Well, let's be practical. Anything that goes to the Prime Minister for decision goes to either one of these men or both. They are in effect, the key holders of what gets on his desk and what he deals with. So they are the logical ones to make sure he does not get involved in these things. And
Well, sir,
I'm just talking about purely administratively. If you want to install the key people who determine who the last person, what goes to the Prime Minister are these 2 people. They, of course, have a whole...
Well, sir, I understand that it's administered by the Chief of Staff and the Clerk of the Privy Council, both of whom serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. And so I'm asking you, in the face of that, what assurance do Canadians have that the screen is actually being enforced properly? Are there any independent mechanisms that your office has to ensure that it, in fact, is being applied properly?
Because their interest is the same as the Prime Minister. They don't want to run a house, see the Prime Minister whom they serve run afoul of conflict of interest. That causes both political and legal problems. They are there to make sure that he complies with the law. It is their duty. And they have been assigned that duty, and surely they're going to exercise in such a way that there does not appear or does not arise a conflict of interest. That's their job.
So your answer is that the effectiveness of the screen rests on the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff and the clerk of the Privy Council,
I
right?
rely on the integrity of the senior people in government acting in accordance with the law, because it's in their interest, it is in the interest of the Prime Minister they
sir,
serve.
is there are no independent mechanisms in place, correct?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I have just, don't forget, it's not there. Each one of them has a whole body of people working under him. They've all been instructed. We have given them lessons on how to do, etc. When in doubt, they will consult with us. They are very keen to have that nobody can raise a conflict of interest.
Well,
and that's their job.
Well, all I can say, no reporting, no transparency measures, no checks and balances. We're just left to take the word of Mark Carney and his two top advisors. I would say that falls short. Now, with respect to the ethics screen, Mr. Carney may participate in a discussion or a decision on a matter of general application or that affects interests of companies as a broad class of persons, unless those interests are disproportionate to other members. Now, disproportionate isn't defined in the screen, so what constitutes a disproportionate interest?
First of all, what's a class? A class is a whole bunch of persons who are affected by have one thing in common, right? And let's say, perfect example would be farmers. Yeah, what are they also? It's a class. They all. You can have a subclass. They're wheat farmers, etc. Then you question if one of them is disproportionate. Let's say wheat farmers is probably a bad example, but it's, if one member of the class owns 60% or so, and the other one, the other 40, then clearly that person who has a 60% interest in that group of companies is a disproportionate, and the screen would apply. I can't give you a specific, generic position because it depends on who we're dealing with and what the industry is and how widely or closely it is held.
That's it, Mr. Cooper. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, gang, what do you think? Is the ethics commissioner covering up for Trudeau and Carney their conflicts of interest? Oh, my goodness. These committees are fun. I'm Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We cover all this stuff. We cover the Question Periods Live. Come and join us for one of those shows. Busy day today. Lots of things going on. That's it. Like, share, subscribe. Come join us for one of the live shows. That's it. Catch you next video.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.